Short-term memory is one of the most fascinating functions of the human brain. It's the system that allows us to hold on to bits of information for a brief period of time, like remembering a phone number just long enough to dial it, or recalling where you put your keys a few minutes ago. But sometimes this system doesn't work as smoothly as we'd like. We forget things we just heard, misplace objects we just held, or struggle to recall what someone said only moments earlier. This is what we call short-term memory loss, and it can be surprisingly common. The reason this happens starts with the way memory actually works. When information enters our brain, it first goes into short-term memory. This is like a mental notepad, a temporary space where we store things before deciding whether they're important enough to keep. But short-term memory has limited capacity. Most people can only hold about 7 pieces of information at once, give or take a few. If too much is coming in at the same time, or if we're distracted, things simply fall off the notepad before they can be processed further. Distraction is one of the biggest culprits. In our modern world, we're constantly bombarded with notifications, noises, and interruptions. When your attention is split, your brain doesn't fully encode the information, and if it's never encoded, it can't be remembered. Stress also plays a huge role. When you're under stress, your brain releases cortisol, a hormone that interferes with memory formation. That's why people often forget small details during stressful situations, like where they parked their car or what someone just asked them. Sleep is another critical factor. While we sleep, our brain consolidates memories, moving them from short-term storage into long-term storage. Without enough deep, restful sleep, that transfer doesn't happen effectively, leaving gaps in recall the next day. Sometimes short-term memory loss can also be tied to lifestyle factors like poor diet, dehydration, or lack of exercise. The brain needs proper fuel and oxygen to function well, and when it doesn't get those, memory is one of the first areas to suffer. There's also the effect of aging. As we grow older, it's normal for short-term memory to become a little less sharp. The brain's processing speed slows down, and certain neural pathways aren't as efficient as they once were. But not all memory lapses are simply a result of age. In some cases, they can be linked to conditions like anxiety, depression, or even early signs of neurological disorders. That's why it's important to pay attention to patterns. Forgetting your keys occasionally is normal, but persistent memory problems may need medical attention. Technology, ironically, is another hidden reason for short-term memory struggles. Because we rely so heavily on smartphones and computers to remember things for us, our brains don't practice holding on to information the way they used to. This constant outsourcing of memory can weaken our natural ability to recall things quickly. Even multitasking has a powerful effect. When we try to do several things at once, we're not actually focusing on any of them deeply. The brain can't properly encode fragmented attention, and that's why we often forget what we were just doing or saying in the middle of multitasking. All of this shows that short-term memory loss isn't usually a sign of something wrong with us. It's often just the brain reacting to overload, stress, or unhealthy habits. But the good news is that memory can be improved. Practices like mindfulness, reducing distractions, regular exercise, and proper sleep all strengthen the brain's ability to retain and recall information. Even simple techniques like repeating information out loud or associating it with images can give your memory a boost. Short-term memory is fragile, but it's also flexible. It's a reminder that our brains are constantly filtering, selecting, and adapting, trying to decide what matters enough to hold on to and what can be safely forgotten. So the next time you forget why you walked into a room or lose track of what someone just said, remember that it's not always a failure. It's part of how the brain manages an overwhelming amount of information every second of the day. Short-term memory loss can be frustrating, but by understanding why it happens, we can take steps to strengthen it and build healthier habits that keep our minds sharper and more focused.